Awesome. All right, so welcome everyone to our very first episode of the Entrepreneurial Athlete Podcast. I'm really excited, y'all, about this because this is a passion project of mine. Me being a former athlete, I am a former Division I basketball player, and I've transitioned into being an entrepreneur. And I was like, why not talk to people just like me? Why not understand their journey, their wins, their losses, and just really get to know them, right? And so here we are. And now as a business owner of myself, I don't even think, let me pause. I don't think I even said my name. So I'm going to tell you what my name is. I'm Phylesha, Phylesha Sanders. And so now I'm a business coach, and I really help former athletes really start their business from scratch, helping them get clear on which service-based business that they should even start. I know me personally, I had issues with that, just trying to figure out what I should do. And so here I am. I'm also helping really established business owners as well streamline their operations and helping them save time and get more clients. So I am literally your girl if you are trying to automate your processes and not deal with the nuances of just small tasks. I help you with that process. But I'm excited about our first guest, y'all. Kyle Fields. I'm excited to get into this conversation. And honestly, y'all are in for a treat. So let me introduce. We have Kyle here out of Texas. So welcome,
Yeah,
Kyle. Um,
happy to be here.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself first before we kind of get into our conversation.
Yeah. So Kyle today is father of three girls. I got a 7-year-old of about to be 5 this month, and a 3-year-old. All girls, girl dad over here, loving it. And then I'm just a serial entrepreneur. So I like to get into my natural flow. Is people come to me with some passion driven inspiration, and I help tailor that into how do we make money out of this? How do we make this your business? And a lot like you, I do a lot of the efficiency automation type. This is the way to think. Super nerd about puzzles. So everything is a puzzle to me. I think there's a solution to everything. There's a way to get there. We just got to figure out every little step. And so I'm living my dream in being where I'm at today. That definitely didn't come overnight, and it definitely didn't come just chapter to chapter. It was a wild transition, roller coaster of life, but it's all part of that pursuit of more, right? And so I'm trying to just help people get to that realization and you know march through life with them is kind of the way I like to put it.
I love that. And we're gonna get into that because you brought up something good where you said that it didn't happen overnight, right? Honestly, it didn't even happen probably from step one, two, three, four. you
Oh
know,
no, not even close.
you probably took some steps forward, maybe even a couple of steps back, and then you go up again. But let's take it back. Let's
Okay.
take it to when you were a former Division I football player. And so let's walk through that. Like, you've been playing football since you were 6, right? So let
Yeah.
us give us some insight there on how you got into playing football and everything.
So I had a very gifted older brother. He was just always a natural athlete. I mean, it's actually kind of wild. He was like on the eighth grade 4x1 team when he was in sixth grade. We when we moved from Minnesota to Chicago, we actually, before we went to our new house, we pulled up to his first baseball game in our new city, and he went out and pitched like a perfect game. And it's just like this weird scenario like that. So I've always grown up with like this Superman kind of brother, right? And so he started football, and I'm watching him. I'm 6 years old, and I'm just like, I can do that. I can do that. I could do that. And there's a 7-year-old like team practicing over there. My dad's like, oh, let's see if he can suit up. And they said I was too young, and my dad talked him into it, so I was able to suit up, and I was hooked. And I loved it. Anything football. I was in the backyard all the time. Fast forward, I think I got my first like personal trainer when I was 12 because my brother had it. So I just always tagged along. And we also did Taekwondo, like for probably up until you kind of had to decide which sport you're going with.
Yep.
It's about sophomore year. And so discipline stuff was like ingrained in that. And so I referenced the 12-year-old, the first time trainer, the age where I got my first trainer, because that's kind of a transition point where it becomes like your identity
Yeah.
in your life, and like are that you are that sport, and I'm going to be this known person in this sport, and it's like I'm already known for it, but now don't worry, I'll be on TV. That's like the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get good, it's like all these affirmations, you get all these, you're in the paper, you're like everything that is in line with that, and it's awesome. It's an incredible journey. It's very rewarding. I was on the side that neglected education in school. So I was a C student, probably shouldn't have been. I got lucky because I was fast enough to get C's, I guess you could say. But I regret that a lot. I wish I really honed in on education more. It wasn't until I was in college. Well, I'll get there. Sorry, I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Good.
So getting the recognition, seeing the similar things that my brother went through in his recruiting. I wasn't as heavily recruited as him because of my grades. A lot of schools discounted, they will discount any skill because you can't pass classes or you have trouble. I was lucky enough to have school take a chance on me, and I really dropped the ball in needing extra assistance to maintain the standards that aren't as easily, but you can't really slide past the standards as easily in college as you can in high school. But so I went up to Indiana, which was a perfect scenario because my parents are both Hoosiers. They graduated from 90% of my family lives in Indiana. It's like this incredible thing. But I pulled my hamstring fast. Not anymore. And it was running used to be this like really euphoric thing where when you're gliding and you're like on this cloud thing. And I just have never been able to get that again.
Yeah.
So a lot of my voids were not even getting fulfilled in playing because it all happened before any season started or anything like that. And so I don't even, you almost could say I have nightmares in that curiosity, especially with playing with friends who I say they're still in the league. I played with Chris Boswell back in the day. He's a kicker, so his career is a little bit longer. But to see similar things where it's, and not to say I probably in hindsight was not pro material in any respect, but I think everybody still, as long as you're going through it, you're thinking that's where I'm going, right? I mean, that's the dog you have to have, the mindset. Anyway, so that huge void, right? This is gone. The thing I am is gone, like, but I'm still breathing. So how am I here? What am I doing? So I'm not going to be up north if I'm not playing football. No thanks. Cold, no thanks. I love Texas. So I come back, go to Texas Tech, and I guess you could say I'm finding myself. I'm having a good time. I'm doing all those things. I'm end up bouncer at a bar, end up working the bartender, those kind of things. That's how I get through school. Still like very like wilding out, not sure what's going on, trying to feel that chase of like, the allure of being an athlete where people are like, oh, I aspire to be like you. And like, but you lose that and you're kind of like, where is that? And it takes you to a place where like, you're not you. And, a lot of, I say regrets, I don't regret them because they formed who I am, but regrets in the way of like, man, I did some embarrassing things while I was trying to figure out who I was and all these things and all that. So I'm trying to discover myself. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I even in school? I'm thinking about dropping out. I'm talking to my brother, who he went to the Air Force Academy. Then he came down to Tech, and his academic posture and mine were like polar opposite. He was straight A student. I was very like class clowny. And he was like, dude, do me a favor, please. Like, I want you to get your degree. Don't drop out. Just like give it a shot. Mom has ADD. can you go like get tested? I was like, I don't know what I've never been told this in my entire life. And I'm like, fine. So I go and I'm diagnosed with ADHD. You get the proper medication for it. And I fall in love with learning because I realized like, oh, you can read something and retain it. You can like
Right.
keep the information in your head. Like, and I was like, this is incredible. And so I start reading, I start like all of these things. And then you get into like the Think and Grow Rich and the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and like all of these like kind of business, financial sense stuff. And it starts clicking. And it's like when you read something, it's like the first time you play a sport where you're like, oh, I feel like I already know this.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, that's what you got to do. Like, okay, cool. Like, I could do that better than most people. And so, like, you start really honing in on that. And I think that built my confidence back up.
Mm-hmm.
And in adapting my life to having ADHD and not knowing it, and just kind of always being that kid who like I guess was too hyper and couldn't focus, I was able to have like I think the reason the Lord waited to inform me on ADHD was because now I have the super ability to think outside the box and be so creative, and what seems to be random to people, I can like connect over 100 dots somehow that I just thought
Yeah.
of and get there. And that is a superpower in business, because I now had the confidence where I'm trying to find myself, to start applying and wear suits instead of backwards hat. Well, it comes full circle,
Yeah.
instead of backwards hats.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I go into corporate world. I love it at first. Honeymoon stage is over, right? And then you start realizing, like, oh man, I'm like the equivalent of a bench player. Like, this is like, you start like, this isn't my position. This isn't where I jive. Like, I
Yes.
start kind of hating it. Like, it's not the allure of like, oh, look where I work and all that kind of stuff, like the new stuff. And I just felt like pulled toward like, I'm not rooted here. I'm not where I belong. Like, this isn't for me. I was getting a little depressed. And to be a high performer and one who, when you have to perform for a starting role, always gets that starting role,
Yeah.
or at least can recognize, like, all right, like Mahomes even had to be behind Smith at one point. Like, there is like this appropriate lineage to things. But when that gets disrupted, you're like, dude, what? Like, a new guy came in and got over, like, you hired out. Like, this is no corporate loyalty. Like, you're learning the politics of the real world and
For real.
adults.
That is a real
And it's not
thing.
like, oh, because you can be looking at it as a prodigy in sports and they're like, oh, let's hone this in the business world. Some people are like, all right, let's not let anybody know, and especially don't let him know, or he's going to ask for more money. And then it's just
Yep.
like this, you get rewarded for effort by more work instead of more pay.
Yep.
So I start to realize, like, man, this isn't for me. And then luckily enough, I always steward who is around you.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Lord puts people around you for a particular reason. And I believe that that's to help us find where we're supposed to be. And in my case, it was a professional who had a couple businesses, who was willing to listen to the ideas that always got knocked down in my creativity. And the boardrooms where the 50s and 60-year-old guys are like, don't talk, kid. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
And then he's like, dude, this is a cool thing. And so that starts going. Then we started doing some stuff. And, all while I was in the corporate world, I forgot to mention, I fell in love with education so much, I got my PhD in business
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
administration. So that helped me a lot, not only in confidence, but like people listen to you kind of after that. So fast forward a bit, now I'm in this like rinse and repeat cycle of like opening businesses with not only my mentor, but other professionals. I have a bunch of partners, and I've found my niche. I found my position. Some people are good at blocking, some people can shoot, some people can sprint. I found where my position is in this operational role, and I'm invited to businesses. I find people to do businesses with. Like, you just let that ecosystem. We roster our team essentially, and we start playing, and we
Yeah.
find out who the competition is. We train it up. We start strategizing, and that void gets filled again.
I love
And I'm just
that.
like, oh, this is the chess match that I like. Like, I have such a more appreciation for sports now than I did when I played it, because I appreciate like the IQ of it, where you're just like, man, the Peyton Manning is like, that's way different than I thought.
Yeah.
I always respect him. I was always like MVP guy, but it's a different perspective when you're just like, oh, there's an Einstein element in this, and
Mm-hmm.
basketball, all the strategy and stuff. And in hindsight, I'm looking at the caliber of athlete I could have been, probably should have been, but wasn't,
Mhm.
all because of the lack of focus on education or wanting to not be a nerd or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and like diving into it. So now I steward my daughters. My oldest is big into was it uh, the AAU. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
So
A.
she's on like the AAU stuff, which is super intense. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 practices a week kind of stuff, but she loves it. And the biggest thing about her is she loves like the IQ of it, which I'm trying to steward more, because it's like, man, I want her to love and keep that passion that I slowly lost from 12 through high school, where it becomes that job. And I realized it's opened, that whole journey has opened my eyes to like, man, you took a passion before and you made it a job, or it's transitioned into a job, not intentionally. And
Right.
you lost the joy for things because of that. When someone's telling you like you have to wake up at 6:30 and you don't get any freedom until 8:30, or maybe on the weekends if you don't have
Mhm.
games, like that's hard to like exit out of too. And then still go to the gym because someone
Yeah.
had to tell me to go to the gym all the time. So
Yep.
it's like, I'm not going to the gym. I'm actually not going to do anything, you know,
So
like,
so
but
I really want, and I really want to highlight something that you really touched on about
yeah,
identity, right? Because I think a lot of us, we all struggle with the identity, right? Our sport has been our identity for so many years. And the moment that you stop, right? You stop playing the sport, and it's like, what do I do now? Right? And so like, do you remember like something like key that really helped you identify like with just who you are personally versus like kind of not identifying with like your sport, but like just finding who Kyle Fields is. Like, do you remember if something like practical you had to do?
so it was really just in the sense of like not knowing where I'm going or like what I even want. And I think there's like this false sense of like everybody defaults like I'm going to be a financial this or like a hedge fund Wall Street guy and all these like money driven things that are just so cool to see on TV, I guess,
Mhm.
without knowing at all what any of that is. You're like, I'm going to be a stock trader. Like you don't know what that even entails. You just know it like maybe buys a Porsche and you get to wear some suits and stuff. As long as it gets you a black card doesn't mean it's like even anything you want to do. And I heard this quote. Well, so I'm in this mindset of like, yeah, I'm going to start a hedge fund or like whatever. I'm going to make a million, invest in, be so rich off of it, I guess. But it was the quote of if money were no object, what? And I had no idea. I was like, I don't. If money didn't exist, like, what would I go out there and do every day? Like for 24 hours, what would I even want to do? And it bothered me for like months on end because I just didn't know. I was like, okay, well, like party, but that would be boring after a while. Like you start realizing, like rationalizing, like the margaritas on the beach aren't great, maybe one or two for a couple of days, but then it's a prison after a while. I think that's Jordan Peterson talks about that, but it bothered me until I started to just let life come to me. I realized you're either going to form your life, your you're either going to form yourself to life or life's going to form itself to you. And I didn't realize that until I got stern in I'm not going to do this anymore. And then I noticed my life started changing because things started aligning with how I wanted to live it. And in that, you get in this natural flow. People come in front of you. I was able to like give some advice to some people sometimes, and they're like, "Man, that thing you said really helped me, and it made me feel good." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna like anytime I have an opportunity to give some advice, maybe I do that." And then it started people like it seemed to resonate more with people, and then I started finding like these things really make me excited when I
Mhm.
get these opportunities. And then it all came full circle into like if you don't know where you're at, who you are, or and you want to find out what your passion is, it's you pay attention to the thoughts that excite you.
Yes.
If it excites you, if it gives you chills, you're like when you see somebody score a last second shot and it gives you goosebumps, it's because you want to be in that moment. Like
Mhm.
go get in that moment? How do you get into a championship game at the last seconds? Like, like how do you get those chills? And I was like, how do I start helping people? How do I help people with their problems? And it was exciting. And then you start really rationalizing, like, okay, well, how do you make a business out of that? Okay, I could go be a therapist. Well, I can't go school. You have to rationalize different things. And then there's all these flows of, oh, I have to make the passion my whole business. It's like, man, that's not necessarily true. Like you start realizing how you can accomplish the same things with different aspects of stuff. I can have a business. A business can look like a side hustle, and it can steward something that is unrelated to money. And it's like, dude, I just want to go help build forts in somewhere for kids who don't know what a fort. I don't know. I'm just thinking out
Right.
loud, but it's like zero monetary value. But I
Yes.
have to have something over here, and you can create a. I know real estate investors who have a bunch of real estate and that I don't care about money. I just have to live so I can go fish or whatever it is.
100%.
It's like
Yep.
set that up, man. But yeah, anyway, when you get excited, hone into that. Because I think a lot of people shy away from excitement because they think it's like lame. Like, oh, I don't want to be excited about something, especially if it's not like a cool thing to be excited about. But it's like, man, if you love like tiddlywinks, like be about tiddlywinks, Like go make a billy off of tiddlywinks.
No, that's very true about following your passion. I think when I believe that you 100% have to follow your passion, right? You want to at least like some aspect of your what you do, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying that everybody's passion will make them money, right? And at the end of the day, everybody isn't trying to just make all this money, right?
For sure.
um but I really do believe that you should like what you do, right? Because if you don't, you will end up being burnt out.
Yeah.
You will put all this time, sometimes money, and then you will end up not doing it 2, 3, 4, 5 months down the road. um and so, but I think though people do get stuck with, they're in their passion, right? Let's just say it's fitness, right? I might love working people out, right? That's my jam. But then it's you get into, oh, I have to send emails. Oh, I might have to
Mhm.
even create meal plans, right? I don't like that aspect, right, of it. And people might think, well, maybe I just don't like the business. That's not true, right? You're
Yeah.
not supposed to like every aspect of the business. You just want to make sure like the umbrella is at least something that you're interested in. And so
Oh yeah.
what do you like is what do you do like in that those what do you say for those types of people, right? That they love what they do, but then it's just like those little tasks that just those mundane type of tasks that they just aren't doing, and they might be thinking that their business model isn't for them. What do you say to those
Yeah.
people?
So I kind of recognize this pattern I've been blessed enough to help people like steward some action in their passions and stuff. And it's you follow the thoughts that excite you, and that will lead you to like the idea of what a passion could be. And you're either going to find out that that's either an interest or a curiosity or an actual passion. And then if you want to start making a business out of it, you go through the fun things, which I call like the logo, the color design, the stuff that like I'm a cool CEO of this business and I get to have a brand, and that's the fun side of business. And then where I say your passion is tested is the not fun side of business, the keeping track of this, or realizing like, oh, I need to keep data. I need to have people's names and email addresses and all these things centralized. And how am I even going to offer this, or am I going to schedule this stuff? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff. And at first it can be overwhelming, but then there's people like you who come in and help you like organize and monetize, and like the value in that is, or I'll keep going down my track, is you're testing your passion. And the test is, do I love this enough? Am I passionate enough about this to make it work? And there are people who are like, oh, this is just so lame. I don't want to do this enough to where I'm not even going to figure it out. Well, that's not your passion. Like you just really liked it. Maybe you like something at the end of it that's rewarding, but that's not your passion. That's not where you're supposed to be. That's fine. But the ones who really are meant to do that thing will make something happen from it. And it's like, I hate doing emails. I hate doing calls, I'm going to figure this out. And for X amount of dollars, I can outsource that. Okay, cool. So I need to make X amount of dollars more doing the thing I love. But if I love training, I can't be doing this. So it's worth it. I just need to get 2 more clients and then I can automate that. Cool. What else do I like? And then it starts, you fill the time with what you want to do, but you have to be aware enough to know this has to get done. Taxes have to get done. I don't want to do the accounting. I'm going to figure out how much that costs while I'm saving that up. Maybe it's through my business, maybe it's through mowing lawns, maybe it's through something else. I have to get that saved up so I can get that off my plate because that's not fun. But I care so much about art or making clothes that I'm going to make that work. And that's where you prove it. I think you get rewarding for that effort. And once you're like fully in what you're doing, that's when it gets monetized. That's when it's like, now this is easy. Now I'm just updating the content that's already scheduled. I'm just doing the videos I have 4 months worth already. And if something does happen, I have to pause life, I have so much stuff already in place that the whole business isn't disrupted. I don't risk like losing all of this. And then that's really where you're like, how do I do this again?
Yes. Yeah, you that's a good point because you said that it's more of like a mindset, right? Like a mindset where you're not going to allow these little bit of like tasks to stop you from really growing something that you truly want to grow. And I think that's being proactive, right? That you're going to figure it out no matter what. And I really do believe a lot of us athletes really have that skill set where because we played in games and we might just be off one day, right? we're the 3-point shooter on the team, but one game is just my shot is off, right? um, but you figure it out. I'm going to score another way, right? I might just have to drive in the paint. My 3-point shot is off, but I'm going to just drive, right? So like, I think that skill set is very, very important and is really key to take that into your business. But I will say it's really sometimes, I know for me, it was difficult to merge the two worlds together, right? Where it's like, wow, the things I went through as a athlete really does resonate with being a business owner. And I, just thinking about like just your mindset of how important that really is, because I hear all the time where mindset's not important, right? That's just like the fluff. Why are we talking about that? Tell me what I really need to do. Like, give me a list. I need a checklist of what I need to do to get 6 figures, right? I hear that all the time. And sometimes that's not always the case, right? You need to understand, one, being clear, excuse me, on what you want to do, right? If you don't have clarity, like I mean, this was me. Like it had me so stuck in trying to figure out what it is I should do. I mean, um, I was on social media scrolling through my feed, and anybody that I saw making $10,000 a month, I said that I wanted to do it. Okay. I didn't care. I didn't care what it was. I was like, I'm going to do it. That's it. But obviously I didn't do that, but it was just because I really didn't look at what I was really good at, what my passion was. It was more so just the financials. And I think you need more than that. You need to, one, get clear on what you want to do, maybe even look within yourself, understanding what skills you have, and then go from there, right? And so for you, right, like, how important was that for your journey? And like, you're very successful now, but like, how important was that, having that mindset on your journey to where you are now?
Well, so it's like, think about when you go and like try out for teams and stuff, like how wild would it be if you're like, how much are you going to pay me to come try out? It's like, what? It's like, dude, you want to play basketball, then you can come, but I'm not going to pay you to come. It's the same thing where it's like, we are people who are trying to show that we can do something that we're passionate about. But when we're in the business world, it's like, well, how much are you going to pay me to come on board? It's like, no, it's about positioning yourself to show off that you are worth that. And so go to the places that aren't, it's not just the $10,000. It's like, okay, well, I'm really good at interviewing people. So I'm going to go down to where they interview people and see if I can, show somebody how I interview somebody, whatever it is, or do a broadcast or whatever. And it's about naturally being put in front of the recruiters instead of trying to be bought out by the recruiters, which I guess is interesting now because that's how it's going. But you get what I'm saying. And when you're trying out for the middle school team, you're showing up for free to try to make the team and have the opportunity. And so it's really the same approach. Try to get the opportunity. You don't have to be this awesome, executive. And what's really hard on the entrepreneur side of things, when we're really good at one thing, we're really good at one thing, but it's hard for us to be an expert in something and then approach other experts with such like a level of naivety and being like, hey, I don't like, it's almost embarrassing, where you'll learn people like that. Like experts want to be experts. They want to help you. They want you to be coming to them for stuff. And that's how you partner up with people, honestly. That's how you build that roster. But at first it's like, man, I'm going to look so stupid because this guy knows everything about accounting. I'm about to ask him what like a debit or credit is. Like, that's dumb. I'm not even going to do that. And then now you're still the guy who doesn't have that skill set fixed or that fit, and you're right back where you were. And so people are hindering themselves. But then we also have this like idea of, I need to get paid enough to go give you a chance to give me a chance.
Yep, you are 100% right. And I think, now, like, knowing what I know now, right? I wish that, I enjoyed, I will say, like, the journey of entrepreneurship, right? I think that, well, at least in my mind, I thought things were going to be linear, right?
Yep.
I start from here, ground zero, and I'm just going to go up like 1% better. Like, that was my whole motto, right? Just focus on being 1% better. But I do know that it's going to be stair steps.
Yep.
I'm going up and up and up. And honestly, it didn't really click with me until I was in network marketing for a little bit of my business time. And I went through so much self-development. That was the time that I really was able to look inside myself, look at all the flaws, and really just try to get better, right? And so I think, though, like, when it comes to the journey, just be patient, one, and then two, fall in love with the journey. I think that's so important, because you're going to, if with hard work, dedication, discipline, all the things, you're going to get where you're going. But just know that there are going to be days where you have everything figured out, everything's clicking, right? But then there are also other days where you just might not be, like, it just might not be it, right? And that's okay. That's entrepreneurship.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've talked to people, 6-figure business owners that are making the money, but they do have days. They're human. We're just like, what the heck is going on? Right? I think as sometimes beginners, you look at the successful people and they're like, you're like on this high pedestal, you got it all figured out, and it's not always like that. So with me saying this, I want to just encourage more so the beginners, that you're on the right track, right? You just keep going, and no matter what, just go through what you're going through and enjoy the journey. Honestly, when the moment that you take your eyes away from more so like the end goal, it could be the things that might be motivating you, the finances, I don't know. It could be that, and that's okay, right? Don't be discouraged if that is pushing you, but just fall in love with it. Fall in love with the journey of getting that thing, because I think that's where it will really make a difference, if I'm being honest. But yeah. So Kyle, so give us a little bit of insight. I know you said that you also help streamline operations, and I know you didn't say it word for word like this, right? But I know you said that it didn't really look like that for you either, right? It didn't look like chapter one, two, three, four. Um, and so was it truly, do you believe that it was your connections that really helped you get to where you are now? I know I'm not saying that it wasn't your hard work, because you had
Oh,
to have
yeah.
hard work to get to where you are. But do you believe that honestly networking is really crucial to your success of which in your business that you have right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think your network is essentially your bank. Like I do think you are the average of the five people or the number of people that are around you. That's super important. But I think some of the perspective of networking, and I know there are some realms where it is just a internal group and you're kind of, screw you if you're not in the group and whatever. But on a general plane, it's it's almost overrated in your network matters because it is the people you surround yourself with. So if you are within proximity to these people, they are your network. And so it's just more so being picky about the traits of the people around. And it's that saying, if you sit at a table with six millionaires, you'll be the seventh.
Yeah.
It's just that's the nature of it. And some of that is here's how it differentiates. I have people within my proximity that aren't my partners, but I replicate their traits because I want to be like them. And so they didn't connect me to a business opportunity, but by approaching business like they've approached business, I have benefited from that.
Yep.
And you could say that that is my network, but I've had benefits from people in my network that have never made network connections that benefited me business wise. And so it's more of the traits that I want to replicate. But I have, those serendipitous moments at times where you're perfectly placed with perfect people and it happens, you have the perfect conversation. And it just so happens it all clicks. But ultimately, yeah, I think there should always be a focus on networking. I think where people get it wrong is they're trying to accumulate contacts and they look at everybody as dollar signs. Oh, you're a business connection, you're a business connection, you can help me out, you can help me out, how can you scratch my back? This isn't how that's supposed to work. This is about to be a natural fit of how can we all jive maybe. And you could call me a hippie or whatever, but it's worked for me. I'm very vibe centric and like, if my traits can help solve your problems, your traits can help solve my problems, maybe we're meant to fit together, and that naturally happens. And through going to networking, yes, go to professional events. Don't go there to do the accumulation of contacts. Go there to genuinely meet people. And when people leave you and they feel like, man, I was inspired, or he actually listened, or they genuinely cared about this, or they changed my perspective, they'll talk to you again.
Yep.
And when people want to talk to you again, they'll want to do business with you. And then they want to go to the sports events and they want to go golf. They want to do these things because you make them feel good. When you make people feel good, it feels good, but they'll want to be around you more. Then when you make the right people feel good, they'll want to do business with you. And so it's just good to, like, yeah, put yourself in network positions, but be a good person while you're there.
Yes, I totally agree with that, because I always I tell my clients about that all the time, about building genuine connections. Who likes getting those DMs where they just pitch you right away, right? Like,
Get out of here.
it's not fun. You get tired, it gets old, right? It gets old really, really, really fast. And so, yeah, like building genuine connections. And that's a good idea, with actually going to like conferences and or networking conferences, and just talking to people, right? Because you just never know. And I'm not saying it would lead to something like financial, but you just never know where that relationship could go. And
Oh yeah.
so, just kind of wrapping up, I think this was such a good conversation, Kyle.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, really good. Is there one last thing that, the audience, the people hearing, um, you want to share with them, or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. I would just highly suggest one, jump, like take the jump, take the leap, do the next thing, take a step, right? But just build the wall in front of you, and what I mean by that is methodically lay every single brick. Every choice you make is just the perfect laid brick on top of it. And eventually, if you focus, and if you're not looking in the distance, you're not going to lay a good brick. If you're focused on how you lay that brick perfectly, you will make that wall and every single wall that you're building along the way. And then you have a foundation that is unstoppable. But you have to take the next step and be consistent, because consistency is one, it's a superpower, but it's calm waters. When you're inconsistent, that's where predators, sharks, anything else, like, they love when things get ruffled up. A tiger can snatch you so much more when the ground is all ruffly than when it has to, yeah, stalk you. And so consistency will get you so much further ahead than anything else. So whatever you do, just do it all the way, all the time, regardless of if it's 10 minutes a day, 10 hours a day. Just trust me, consistency over 36 months will get you beyond where you think you want to go.
That is truth. Amen to that. So for the people that want to do business with you, want to work with you, how do they get in contact with you? What do you have going on right now? You know, tell us all the details.
Okay. Easiest way, I guess, would be just Kyle at kylefields.com. Interesting or easy enough. Just make sure it's a Fields with an S. Everybody thinks I went to A&M with Kyle Field, but no, kylefields.com. You can either go to kylefields.com. I got forms and stuff on there too. But I got Facebook. Instagram is at Kyle underscore Bunga underscore dude underscore. So Kyle Bunga dude. And uh, yeah, I mean, never hesitate to holler. I'm into very serendipitous stuff. If you got a problem, I'll help you out. I get to emails as I can. But yeah, if you got a business idea, it's not stupid. So I'm down to hear it.
Y'all heard it from him. I'm telling you, y'all, if y'all want to do business with Kyle, hit him up on his website. Don't you worry. I will put all of that information in the description or anywhere you will see it. You will have it with you. So thank you for listening, y'all. Appreciate it. I look forward to the next episode. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.